Welcome back to the Puzhitsky podcast, everybody. Today we have a very special episode. I got to talk to Kru Jenypher. Now, Kru means guru or teacher in Thai. Kru Jenypher was one of my first Muay Thai instructors when I joined her gym back in 2013. She's the owner of York Muay Thai in Toronto, Ontario. By the way, if you want to check out York Muay Thai, if you're interested in martial arts or Muay Thai in particular, please check out York Muay Thai in Toronto, Ontario. Could not recommend it enough. So she's the owner of that gym, and she is also one of the pioneers of Muay Thai in Canada, one of the first female professional Muay Thai fighters in North America, I believe. There's not much she hasn't done, and it was truly an honor to talk to her today. We had a lot of fun. We talked about how Muay Thai and learning any martial art for anybody in the world can just improve their lives immeasurably for their mental health, their physical health, their discipline, and honestly how the world would be a better place if everybody got punched in the face at least once, learned what that feels like, and maybe went about their lives with a little more humility, right? And we also talked about how Muay Thai could become a more recognized, a more popular sport here in North America, as it already is in a lot of Asian countries, namely Thailand. And we also had a kitty on the podcast. So if you like kitties, you'll enjoy this conversation. And as always, whether you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Music, or YouTube, please subscribe, follow, do all of that. And I appreciate your support. So without further delay, please enjoy my conversation with Kru Jenypher.
Yeah, playing with the kitten. Oh, bring the kitten for a second if we can get him on camera. That'd be cool.
Is he sleeping? Too bad.
No,
we wake you up for a podcast.
Yeah. We'll cut
this
it in.
This kitten was thrown in the garbage at a workplace.
Yeah.
And my buddy went to go pick up the garbage and move it. And when he pulled his forklift out, one of the forklifts killed a kitten. And he was like, it was all mangled. And so he felt horrible and he buried it out back. And the next morning he went to work and this guy was sitting there. And he was like, I have a Rottweiler that will break this in half.
Oh my God.
He's like, do you want to take him? I'm like, well, I'll foster him. My son was stoked. Okay, like super excited.
Yeah.
And then the next morning he calls. He's like, I have 2 people that want him.
Oh my God.
My son was like, what are you doing? He's like, you're taking it away? I'm
so
like,
they were behind the forklift, like just.
It was in like someone threw them all in a dump, like a trash, and the trash got dumped, and they were in it. So when he went to move the trash, he stabbed one.
Oh, look at this dude, little gym kitty.
Cameo with Pucho Earlier here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Cat babysitter extraordinaire. Bring him your children. Yeah. He'll also babysit children. Isn't he cute?
How old? Do you have any?
We were estimating 4 to 5 weeks.
4 to 5 weeks?
Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Welcome, Kru Jen, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This is pretty surreal, being here in the ring and doing a podcast instead of, sweating and bleeding as I'm used to with Kru Cam and the whole gang. Yeah, it's crazy. How long when did you guys open?
2010.
2010. I came in 2013.
It's been 15 years, so yeah, 12 of your years.
That's crazy.
Known about us and fought and
nothing
changes here ever, as you can see. We do some upgrades. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I remember when I came, the floor was still carpet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, like Siam, and then it smelled really bad, and I was like, no, I have to no.
Yeah, but there's something about like the tradition. That's the thing about Muay Thai, right? And I've talked about this with some other comics that do other martial arts like boxing, is like it's heavy on tradition. So if you say do it like Siam, right? Is that like a normal thing to have carpet or?
Well, Siam had carpet.
Yeah.
We had carpet on cement for every gym Ajahn Suchart went to. We had carpet, and there was no mat underneath. It was just carpet on concrete. And so in some areas it would wear down to the concrete, and in other areas it was fine. But if you did sit-ups incorrectly, you'd get that thing on your back where you'd rip your back open.
Oh, yeah,
you'd be
yeah.
rubbing your we call it like the Siam butt, where you get the
calluses on your
calluses on the top of your tailbone from the carpet. We only changed it because it smelled really bad. That was really, and you steam clean as much as humanly possible. But it's 2,400 square feet in here, so steam cleaning is a nightmare.
Yeah, that's tough. And I definitely had some rug burns on my feet.
Yeah, and then people come in and they're like, my knees, my hips, I can't do concrete. So we finally, thanks Kru David, got us mats.
Yeah, shout out to Kru David. Yeah, the mats are, and I did judo before, right? So like there is also mat burn, but these look good. They're like big and like, I don't even know, the judo mats, they have this weird texture on them for grip because like you can slide, but these look like they're textured too.
Yeah,
is
these
good.
are like your standard zebra mats, but I trip on them often. That's cool.
So yeah, for anybody listening that doesn't know your history in Canadian Muay Thai, give us a little rundown. How did you get into Muay Thai? Open your own gym?
Oh, okay.
How did that all happen?
I'm from Ottawa originally, and I was bullied in high school. Of all of school, actually.
Okay.
But when I finally got old enough, that bully. Okay, so being bullied combined with hip hop created an aggressive female in me as a teen.
Yeah.
And we ended up joining Bob Carver. So John Bob Carver is been in the scene forever, and he's out in Ottawa. And a friend of mine were like, we should probably learn how to fight if we're gonna have people trying to like threaten us. Meet me at the mall at this time. It was like super 90s. And so I started training out there, and then I liked it so much that when my sister moved here and I graduated high school, I was like, I'm gonna go with my sister and live in Toronto. And that's what I did. So I came here and I met Kru Jenypher, which he owned MAFA, Martial Arts Fighting Academy at the time, which is an old school martial arts gym for those who know in Ontario. One of the first. And there, under MAFA at the time was Kru Joey de los Reyes from Combat. It was Kru DJ Dallaire. It was Roberto Herrera. It was like Kru Gerald. All of them were in one spot. Jack Sanzone, a bunch of people. And I started training there. And that gym, I think, closed down. And then I met Kru DJ, and I was training out of this spot. All until I finally met Ajahn Suchart, and he eventually took us under his wing. And so I started the 2.5-hour bus ride from West End, Mississauga to Lawrence and Dufferin every day to train with this master. And he was the only one, right? There was no one else really doing Muay Thai.
In Toronto?
Yes, at the time.
In the GTA, right?
Yeah, at the time. And so, it was like 5 hours one way. 5 hours both ways, like 2.5. And I trained there for, I don't know, a few years. It took me about 2 years before I did my blue shorts. I fought before I got my blue.
Cool.
I don't know why that happened that way, but and the tests back then were like you had to do your counting in front of him in the office, like it was one-on-one. It was really small, so it was really cool. And then I competed a few times, and then Ajahn was like, "So I have this fight for you," and I was like, I believe I went to Thailand first, and I trained there for 6 months, and I was there with Ajahn and stuff like that. And when I came back, he was like, "I have this fight for you." And he didn't tell me it was professional because it was always his way to be mysterious to the point where we were concerned for our safety sometimes.
Yeah.
So he'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's that," and I'd be like, "Who is it?" And he gave me her name, and I Googled her because back then there still was Google. It just wasn't as widely used as today. So I Googled her, and I found out that she was like this crazy champion. And I was like, "What? I'm fighting pro? What are you doing? What are we doing here? What is happening?" Anyways, and so that was the start of like a small professional career that I had. And then it went into like Puchai Kru, and then Kru, and then we opened here. So I was at the university for
York University
for a couple of years teaching there, and we needed a home. Like I had Kru Cam at that point, who had already joined me from York University. I had Kru Patrick by that point. We had competitors coming out of York University. We didn't really have any place. So I opened this place so close by because I thought, one, we had built up such a market of York University. This would be great. And two, students that usually get into university either struggle with a lot of anxiety if they're away from home, or they get into the dark side of year one, which is like a lot of drugs and alcohol. So I figured being close by, we could sort of help that market out. So we started raising fighters. And then in 2015, we started with a bunch of the community. We started Muay Thai Ontario.
Nice.
And I was the president of that for 5 years, along with my vice president and my executive director. So we started to build Muay Thai Ontario. That was great. We were building Muay Thai Canada at the same time. And then the pandemic hit. Yeah. And life just stopped for a lot of people. And then from there, we kind of took our time. We paid our rent. We survived. And now we're 15 years deep.
No, that's awesome.
Long story.
And it's cool seeing the rise of Muay Thai in Canada, but in North America in general, because you see sports like combat sports come in, and obviously UFC is super popular now, and like the trajectory of that, like from going just weird cage fighting, and people are like, what the hell is this? For all martial arts, their growth in the past 10, 20 years has been exponential. Yeah, so absolutely. What do you think, because Muay Thai, when people think UFC, that brand, people want to see people stand up, punch each other, not wrestle, right? Yeah. And that's what people don't realize, that's Muay Thai. So many of the most exciting fighters are Muay Thai based. What do you think is preventing Muay Thai from being as popular in North America, having its own huge promotion that because people want to see stand-up, people want to see brawls, right? They don't necessarily love the wrestling aspect.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
What do you think's preventing it from getting to that like mainstream level, right? Because I know there's like ONE FC, and it's obviously, it doesn't need any promotion in Thailand and a lot of Asian countries because it's huge there. It's like a religion. Yeah. What do you think in North America is stopping that?
I think we're getting there slowly. But I think the ONE is doing huge things for Muay Thai, and really is helping get Muay Thai more mainstream and continuing to have it mainstream. But I also think that, number one, Canada is provincially regulated. So each province has its own regulatory rules for sanctions. And some provinces don't allow pro and some do. So as confusing as it might be, we can have pro UFC come in because Dana White will come in and they'll do their thing, and that's great. But we still haven't managed to get necessarily pro Muay Thai, although we have the Pan Ams in next weekend. We have the Pan Ams on September 28th. So the Pan American Championships from IFMA are being held in Ottawa.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But again, it's amateur. But I think that like Alberta, you'll see a lot more Muay Thai, whether it's the WBC, whether it's like whatever promotions are happening, because they have like they can do professional. You also have it in, I think in BC. Yeah. And they're really like, Muay Thai Canada is doing work to get it in every province. Because as a country, for us to really level up, we need to be able to work with each other and compete against each other. And right now, there's not a lot of platforms where, like, say we do a Muay Thai Canada Championships, like some provinces have to travel all the way to Ontario or have to go all the way to the west side. So if we get it in every little province, we can sort of popularize it. And I also think that social media has been one of the biggest tools in helping popularize everything.
Right, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
We didn't have that. I'm a VHS baby, so half my fights are on VHS, and I'm just a blurry blob. But everyone, they all know all the new fight. Like everyone knows everything now because of social media being so prevalent and having so much information go around. But I think that the only reason why Muay Thai is where it is the one right now. And Glory and those ones helped as well, but it's the longest standing.
Yeah. Yeah, and once a promotion like that, like a brand that partially is spread through social media, right? The reason that ONE FC and UFC are as big as they are is because of their grasp on the mainstream through through content and through, these pay-per-views and just building communities online. There's Reddit subreddits talking about niche fighters and all of that, right? That helps push it to the mainstream. And then once a governing body like, IFMA or whatever, there's a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork that has to be done basically to legalize these things.
Yeah. I mean, in the States, it's state regulated, right? So you'll see certain states will have majority events and other states won't have as many.
Like I still remember when UFC did their first MSG card because it was illegal in New York, even though Las Vegas, they had their own commission that legalized it. And what probably was the catalyst to that was Connor, right? He's the reason that they're like, okay, that's going to bring us a lot of money. So I think the bigger it gets, the bigger the promotions get. And like, what you know about this like slap fighting thing, right?
I've seen it, but not a lot of it because it's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch.
I'd rather watch people punch and elbow each other to death than I would see people slap each
and
other.
that's my thing. Like Dana White is not a dumb guy, and I'm like, why does he focus on slap fighting and not, something like Muay Thai, right? If he wants to promote a different type of event. Yeah. Like it's so easy for him. Like if I'm like, I stand behind this. If the UFC did a pure like Muay Thai promotion, have like Izzy fight, there's so many great kickboxers and Muay Thai guys that are like based in that sport. It's over. That's it. Like it might even become more popular than the MMA, the whole octagon thing, because people want to see stand up. People want to see those crazy KOs, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
That's my thought. But
I don't know. I don't know why no one really. I mean, I feel like people have, but there's a lot of fear in that. It's money. Like the Muay Thai Premier League was around years ago, right? Glory was around years ago, right? There's a ton of different promotions that tried to be that number one lion fight. Yeah. Right. And then it's usually something financial that causes it to.
No, absolutely. It's always financial, no matter, if there's nobody making money, then what's the point? But that's exactly my thing. Is like there is so much money to be made in this, and it's so exciting, right? Like just once people get into Muay Thai, it's almost like a religion, which it literally is in Thailand. You go there, it is a religion. People are live, breathe, and sleep like Muay Thai, right?
Yeah, it's their hockey.
It's their hockey. Yeah, exactly. It's their hockey. But I think it'll happen because like look at it's we're looking at it from Muay Thai in Thailand. It's like how long does the history go back?
Oh, like 2,500
Yeah,
years?
exactly.
Minimum, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're looking at it in North America. It just came here. I think eventually things will level out and people, because another thing that I'm noticing now is that like I've been doing martial arts since I was, a toddler, right? Judo, then Muay Thai, then, so I get it. And for a long time, it was more of a niche thing, but now, I saw all my high school friends that had no idea when we were high school anything about any combat sport. They're all UFC fans now, and they know about Glory, they know about One, they know about these niche promotions. So it's becoming way more mainstream in general, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And once people become more versed and understand combat sports, right, they can differentiate between what's Muay Thai, what's Jiu-Jitsu, what's Judo, right? Like what's karate.
But even just the fact that a friend from high school who literally knew, you would say Muay Thai when you were 10 here, and they'd be like, what's Muay Thai?
Exactly.
The fact that it's just a word that whether they can differentiate the difference perfectly from kickboxing or not, that word's being used in households. My parents know what it, you know what I mean? Now it's a little bit more common. You don't have to be like, it's kickboxing, but it's without the, and we do it. It's chess and checker. You don't have to go through all that.
That was my go-to for so long. When I told people I did Muay Thai, and they're like, "What's that?" I was like, "It's like kickboxing, but it's Asian."
With elbows, knees.
Yeah.
And then you do the chess versus checkers, and all the kickboxers get offended. They're like, "We're not checkers."
Exactly. So I really enjoy seeing that and seeing people slowly learn what it is without me having to like explain what Muay Thai is to them.
Because it was a Yeti living in the hillside. Back then.
And and there's so many like MMA content creators, and we were talking just now with Kru Clifton Brown, right? He ran into one of the MMA content creators. They posted a little. So we were talking about this before, and I said, pause, let's talk about this on the podcast. So I'm not aware of the situation.
Yeah, there was both Ontarians, obviously. Kru Clifton is a very well-known 5-time world champion based out of Ontario from Simon number 1. He teaches out of EMA, which is Etobicoke Martial Arts. Right.
And he actually defeated Israel Adesanya in a Muay Thai promotion, right? Am I wrong? No.
Is Clifton or Simon Marcus?
Oh, I'm talking about Simon. Okay, yeah, never mind.
I
got them messed up.
Both 5-time world champions, both Jamaican.
Yes.
Clifton's era is a little bit before that. But so he was having an open sparring event, and there was another gentleman that is pretty well known, Jeff Chan. He's an MMA guy, so he's under MMA Shredded. And it was like an open sparring event, and he was like, "Hey, come, let's spar."
MMA Shredded is his. Okay.
Is his thing.
And he does what? MMA content.
Yes, he does. It's mostly sparring based, I think.
Okay.
I haven't.
So not commentary, like actual.
He does commentary.
Okay.
Yeah, he videos and then he comments on like strategy and what happened and stuff like that. I know of him. I don't know him very well personally or anything like that. And anyway, Kru Clifton invited him and they did a sparring session, and he produced the video that he would after, which he would do.
Yeah.
But it was people's views on it because Kru Clifton is so much bigger.
Right, right.
People were really harsh on him. Now, you have to know Kru Clifton, right? You have to know him, number one. But you also have to have a deeper understanding of Muay Thai to a degree, because I feel like everything he did in that sparring session, if that was a Thai person, it would have been fine. But because that was not a Thai person, everything was personalized. Right? So, Kru Clifton lived in Thailand for a number of years. He can speak the language. He translates for Buakaw when he comes.
Nice.
So he's got a deep understanding. And if you are, number one, if you look at the technique, he didn't turn it over. Does he still hit super hard? Probably. He's a big guy.
And turn it over means,
like
put
his hip wasn't
into it.
Exactly, right? Like an elbow that doesn't go all the way through,
Yeah.
there's like, it'll stop short, but there's still value in it, right?
Yeah.
And Muay Thai is one of those arts where, like, yes, there's play sparring, and then there's pride. There's more than just, this is a martial art. It is not, it's not a sport. It's different.
And in every gym you go to, when there's sparring sessions, like there is, who's what, and like there's always, it's its own little social bubble, right? And kind of, so like there is a reason that in order to spar, at least here when I was training here, you have to be a certain level. You can't just let a guy come in yellow shorts, okay, go sparring.
Yeah.
Because you have to learn and understand not only the technique to be able to, because we call them weapons, right?
Yep.
So you have to be able to wield the weapon before you go out and use it with other people around, right?
Yeah, and even here, like, we have a blue shorts test coming up, and oftentimes, a student will come up to us, and maybe they've been training a year, and they've made great strides, and they're like, my name's not on the test. Why?
Right.
And we'll be like, your effort, A+, your traditional aspect, language, bowing, A+, everything's there. But technically, it's still taking the scenic route, and if it's taking the scenic route, you're going to hurt everybody else.
Right.
Because aim is a super, super important tool in Muay Thai, as it is in anything that you need aim for. But it's really specific. And it's the difference of, like, someone kicking our fighters' kneecaps versus kicking a target on the leg.
Absolutely.
And so holding people back, right? And just making sure they have a deeper understanding.
Yeah. So anyways, they got into Kru Clifton's a big dude. This from the video, this guy looked like he was smaller, but compared to Kru Clifton, a lot of people look small. Yeah. And I guess online, because I didn't see the comments, people were like, "Oh, like the big black guy's bullying small Asian guy."
Yeah, and I mean, you even got comments from like guys like John Wayne Parr, guys like Liam Harrison, who are notoriously known for hard sparring. Okay, but to me, like, some of the comments were, he's going way too hard. And number one, Jeff is a professional MMA fighter. Jeff is not an amateur. Jeff is not a guy building his resume.
Exactly.
Number one. Number two, he's voluntarily going into other people's homes. And the third thing is there's certain things that if you're going to try them on a Muay Thai guy, and I get it. I watched a lot of Jeff's previous stuff. He does sweep most people. He tries to double leg sweep a lot of guys. But again, there's a difference between you dealing with this person and this person.
Exactly.
And so I think that certain moves were made that Kru Clifton felt like there was a consequence for, and not necessarily bruising his ego in any regard, but more like, this is the answer to the question you're posing.
Yeah. If
you tried to ask this question of a double leg sweep, I'm letting you know that you're close enough. The answer is my elbow.
Yeah.
So the uproar was that he was going, he's listen to him grunt. Look at his face. He's angry.
Yeah.
I was like, Kru Clifton will grunt sparring an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Because that's what he views sparring as. Now, is he like, he'll be like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Right? He'll be like, And it's to let you know that if we're sparring, and I land a, quote, kill shot on you, and you don't respect it, my noise comes across to let you know that had I really committed to that, you would have suffered, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going, on a jab that does nothing.
Yeah,
I'm doing it on a kill shot so that I don't have to actually kill you, to let you know that you're vulnerable in a certain area. And if you don't respect that, you're in trouble. Now, and so that's a little bit of kind of what was happening. And I'm definitely not going to say he wasn't going, quote, hard, but do I think he was going too hard? I don't.
Yeah.
I think every little part of it was taken out of context, right? Like, he's making noise. I'm like, but Thais do that all the time. Saenchai never doesn't make noise.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, because when you're posting something like that on the internet, and like Kru Clifton learned through that video, and like people will comment no matter what, like they don't have to understand what they're seeing. Like, there's no barrier to commenting. They'll just see it and be like, hey, I want to, and that's a bit of the, like, we were talking about how positive the internet can be to bring, Muay Thai to the mainstream and help it grow in North America or whatever. But also there is situations like that where there is literally, I don't know how many views that video got, but there's, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are just watching it. And there is no barrier to some idiot saying, this is what I think, even though they have no idea what they're looking at.
And it was a clip. The full video is on Jeff's page, and he does narrate through the whole thing. Yeah. Like the full couple of rounds. The full couple of rounds, you don't see any of that. Yeah. You only see those hard shots lined up in one chunk. Yes. Right? Yeah. And like, I've sparred Kru Clifton as a small person, and I know what's hard and what's not. And But again, it's like it's a little bit of like it's Muay Thai. It's different, right? So you watch it and the untrained eye is like, look at that ego and ferocity and anger.
What were Jeff's thoughts on the whole thing when he commented on it?
There's a couple of comments from him where, you know, a few of them were like, he was like, you know, I'm like, I'm grateful, you know, I knew going to Clifton, it wasn't going to be easy and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But I do think that there wasn't enough defense from Jeff towards all the people attacking Kru Clifton. I think that it should have been a little bit more like, hey guys, I'm okay. Because he made a comment where he's like, the elbow was a little bit more. I didn't expect it. It was a little bit more.
Yeah.
He wasn't wearing elbow pads, but Kru Clifton was, and people were mad at that. Well, how can we sparring if the other guy doesn't have elbow pads? If you don't come with elbow pads, and I do, well, come to Muay Thai with Muay Thai gear. Yeah. Right? Like, don't come with half the gear and then get mad when I use all the weapons that Muay Thai is supposed to use. But he was good. It was just, I felt like it started as like, thank you. And then with the world, it kind of just twisted it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know Kru Clifton has thick skin, but it's just to know how skilled and passionate he is, to watch everyone just be like, look at this angry man out of control.
Yeah, and that's another issue, is that like people with the clip culture especially, and I know a lot about this. I post a lot of clips online, and you should see my DMs. If it's not gay dudes sliding into my DMs, it's people telling me to kill myself.
Right, yeah.
So, and you realize that it's the, you know, famous Teddy Roosevelt speech. It's the man in the arena. The critics don't count, right? Yeah. And, you know, in this case, Kru Clifton is the man in the arena. And, you know, people, again, they take this literally clip of a clip, right? Yep. Like it's like a YouTube video, which is it's a clip of what actually happened in the interaction. Yeah. And then you clip that, and they label this man who is, you know,
who got on a plane like 3 days later and went to Paris to support our Canadian athletes at the Olympics for the very first time.
Exactly.
Like, you know?
Yeah, so it is tough. It is tough. And that's the dark side of the internet, because that will happen. There's no way of guarding it. And, you know, it's everything has its positives and negatives, and it's sad to see when that does happen. Yeah. But I'm sure that, you know, the people that, again, understand the language of Muay Thai and understand what is going on there, because it is so intricate. And we were just talking about sparring, right? It is a language. Like the amount, you know, the grunt and the noise you make when you either follow through or don't on an elbow communicates something to the person. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have to be at a certain level before you spar and you interact that way. It's literally like learning a language. Like if Kru Clifton, I don't know if he speaks French or not, if you drop him in the middle of France and say you can't speak English, only French, he's not going to do as well as if he can, you know. Right. So,
well, and that's another reason why, like, I'm not a huge fan of cross training, right? Like the reason why York Muay Thai is one of the only Muay Thai only exclusive gyms in the province. We don't have MMA, we don't have boxing, we don't have jits, we don't have wrestling, we don't have any of that, because again, it's steeped in culture and understanding this culture. Like if an MMA guy comes in and doesn't have that understanding, again, like the noise has a purpose and a value of communication. Yeah. Right. And they won't understand that because they're not training in a traditional, like an exclusively Muay Thai place. And so I tend to stay away from that. Like if it's a Muay Thai gym that wants to come spar, cool, but I don't want to see a bunch of like MMA dudes come in to spar, because I mean, their off rhythm helps us, but aside from that, there's more to it.
Yeah, and also the culture aspect of it, like you said, Muay Thai has been around for, you know, a lot. Thousands of years, literally, whereas a lot of these martial arts are just like, you know, jiu-jitsu and you know, not karate and taekwondo and stuff like boxing, right?
Yeah, like more sport based.
More sport based. Yeah. They're quite literally, they're infants, they're babies compared to Muay Thai, and there is no. There is obviously a culture. If there's a sport, there is a culture, but it's not as steeped in tradition and
they're just not martial arts. Yeah. They have a culture and a tradition to them, but they're not martial arts. So they're structured totally differently in how you learn. Like if you go to the traditional arts versus a boxing gym, it starts with the culture versus starting with the boxing and then the culture, right? Like we learn a certain way. And And so, not knocking all the history in the other arts or anything,
Yeah.
but they're different in how you learn them.
Yeah. Like when I came here, I remember the first things I learned were, like the Swati Cup and the bow,
Yeah.
and then you learn how to count in Thai, and then, you have it right there. You can't see, but love, respect, believe. There's a lot more. And I think this is a general thing, like Muay Thai, you really feel this, but in general with martial arts, at least for me, it taught me a lot about myself.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
how to apply, like, there is something to be said about like physical combat and being like, I've had judo fights and I've had Muay Thai demos in this very ring, right? And when you learn and when you're preparing to do that, right? Like daily altercations in real life, they're dumbed down to like the fact that like, there's something to be said to, I think everybody in their lives should at least learn how to throw a punch or fight.
Absolutely.
Because it does something to your psyche. And you can probably comment on this way more than I can, because you literally said like you were bullied in high school, you got into Muay Thai, and that gave you a sense of identity, but also like you didn't say that you learned how to kick ass and you went back to those bullies and you kicked their ass. That's not what happened.
No, it gives you a sense of restraint. It teaches you the restraint, right?
Exactly.
Like you don't get out of your car and punch the road rage guy behind you for honking because you know that, okay, one, there's phones now, you'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
But you're trained sort of to restrain what you know, because you now have you have damaging power, right? Essentially. So the only thing, like, it's difficult to teach that to my child that's 9, but that's the first thing I experienced, was that I started to be less aggressive when I started learning it, because I was like, I could really hurt someone.
Absolutely,
and you don't know who you can fuck with. Okay, let me tell you, you bump into Terry Tang Poi on the street in a bar, you piss him off. You don't know, he looks like a tiny little old man. And he'll fucking overhand right, elbow you, and then you're dead.
Shout out to Terry.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, or you see Jodine, or I often think about that when I do get angry. When we think about road rage and we think about all those different situations, I'm like, you have no idea. You think that tiny little Asian lady isn't gonna bust your face? I got tiny Asian ladies in this class that'll bust your face.
Oh yeah.
So like, everyone learning martial arts is like open carry.
It's literally, that's
like
a
an
great
open carry
analogy.
state. You got to be careful.
I was literally just in Texas recently. I'm going back soon. And, there's that whole stereotype of Canadians are super nice. First of all, maybe Canadians are super nice. And when you drive anywhere an hour outside of Toronto, that is usually true. Not the case usually in Toronto, from what I found.
Yeah.
I went to Texas. I was in Austin. I didn't go anywhere else, but literally the nicest.
Yes. We went to Des Moines for TBA.
Yeah.
We brought Marco to TBA, and Des Moines is an open carry state. Mm-hmm. And we were shocked at how nice everyone was. And we're like, that's because if you're not nice, someone can bust your ass.
Exactly. But like, and it's, they have that like saying Southern hospitality. I think it's,
Southern
because
open carry,
Southern open carry. That's literally what it is. Because truly, like, it's not, somebody cutting in front of you in line is not worth,
Right. Meanwhile, Toronto, it's like the poor Tim Hortons employees are getting assaulted on the daily for screwing up double-doubles.
That is true. That is not worth it. So yeah, and what you said is absolutely true. There are so many people training these days, and it's less so now than it was a while ago, because like I said, martial arts in general are way more mainstream now. And there's way more people training. Like the percentage of people that are actually have had some kind of martial arts experience
formal training,
in the past 5-10 years has just exploded, right? Yeah. So you truly don't know when you're out and about and something happens. You don't know if that nerdy looking or, maybe overweight or whatever, like small old lady, she might truly be able to twist you into a pretzel if you're not careful.
It's bananas. When I hold pads for people, like private clients,
I
always find their bar fight weapon. So like, I'm like, I'll find their strongest weapon.
Right.
And I'm like, this is your bar fight weapon.
The bar fight weapon.
If you're ever in trouble, this is don't fucking do that other thing you just did. That weapon blows. This is your bar fight weapon. And it's like, because I'm feeling the power, and I'm like, yo, like, this girl's like 115 pounds. And she could elbow my face off.
That's such a good. What I wonder what I'm trying to remember what my bar fight weapon was.
It would be whatever had the most power. I don't know if it was your cross or if it was like a left kick. I don't know.
Yeah, I liked my switch kick always. The switch kick, my left switch kick, not from like
not
the
lifted.
orthodox ones, but like the switch kick. And then that stutter step kick that Cam taught me at one point. I remember when he taught me, I was like, oh, this is fun. Like that extra swoosh. But yeah, the switch kick. And the switch kick is nice because you're here and then you, bam, it happens so quickly.
As long as you're fast enough, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, the person like switch kicks and you see it from like last Tuesday and you're like, slow down, I know what you're doing.
But realistically, after like now at this point, I've been training on and off for, what am I? I'm 25. Yeah, like
Whoa.
20, yeah. Crazy,
10
right?
years, right? I just realized that. I was like, he's
Yeah.
like 21, 22.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So, yeah, like over 20, because I started judo when I was 3, like literally a toddler.
Yeah,
So my years of training, I've been training for over 20 years, but my bar fight weapon is running. I just fucking get
Running
the fuck
away,
out of there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, and I would tell them that, right? Your bar fight weapon is if you have to use it, this is what you throw, and then you run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And that's another reason that people need to reach a certain level before they spar, because I find that it is the least trained people that have the most confidence.
Yes.
And like if something happens, I can fuck somebody up because they haven't been knocked in the face. Nice.
So you got to check this out. There's a Muay Thai fighter in the States named, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill her name. It's not Serena. Oh, I'll find it for you after. Anyways,
Okay.
She's really well known. Do you know the one that's interviewing people and asking them to fight? She's asking the guys to shadow box. She's from Popejoy. That's it, Selena
Flores.
So she's going around. She has a mic and she goes around like the beaches and she'll pick like the buffest guy and she'll be like, okay, so if you were to get into a fight, shadow box for me.
Yeah.
And she's watching these like 250 juice bag guys being like,
yeah.
It's fantastic.
That is funny. That is great. And then so that's it. Truly, like, training humbles you and makes you realize that, like, you know, I'm not all that, because no matter and even if you get to a super high level, which I feel like there is what is that called? Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you ever heard of that? It's basically it's a graph, and I'll try to put it up on the screen if anybody's watching. But it's like the y-axis is level of confidence, and the x-axis would be experience. And the graph it's 2 humps, right? So it goes up, reaches this first peak, goes way down all the way to the bottom, and then slowly goes back up and tapers off. Right? That first peak, it's called, like, you know, Mount Stupid, because you're very not experienced and you think you're fucking it, you know? Yeah. And then as you get more experience, your confidence level slowly starts to shatter, and you're like, oh shit, you know nothing, Jon Snow.
Kru Clifton just showed up to sparring.
Yes, exactly. And then you reach a new crevice where you're like very humble and you're like, shit, I gotta figure this out. And then as you stick with it, you slowly, you know, go back up. You never reach Mount Stupid again, but you kind of taper off. And that's where true, like, expertise or experience
and humility.
Your
humility lays over there.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what it is. And that's like that with training. And I had that. I was definitely had my Mount Stupid and my dark days with comedy. And it's like that with everything, no matter what it is, right? It just, the thing is with martial arts, it's applicable to, you know, to life a little more, where if you can get easily knocked in the face when you're at Mount Stupid if you're not careful. And a lot of people are. Like, the thing is, to get to that level, you even have to have a few classes. But a lot of people are at that peak without ever they watch 2 UFC events. They're like, I have a hand, I can do this.
But you even get it with experienced fighters, right? Like, you can get it where you're like, you know, 10-0 or something because you fought, you know, moderate people, and then all of a sudden you face someone and you're like, oh my God, I was 10-0 and this person just took me out in 1 round or something. Right. So, like, even as a competitor, you'll run into that if you stay in your career long enough, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, there are levels to everything. Yeah.
So how did you, when you were a kid, I have a question for you now.
Yeah.
Because you started you said 10 here, right?
I started here at 13.
What?
I was still,
Who was 10 then? Sir Reznikov? Anyway.
Yeah. Probably him. Yeah, because I did judo. I remember I did judo until I was 13. That was right before, like, and then I had a few injuries, and then we had to find something else, and I came here, which is one thing. I talked about this already, but I went from judo to Muay Thai as a more safe option to learn a martial art, because judo, I was 13 years old. I had fucked up knees, a fucked up back.
Yeah.
And people might, again, like, you look at, like, boxing and Muay Thai and stand-up fights, there are all these, like, bruises and cuts and stuff, and they look brutal, but you know, you recover from bruises and cuts, and if you're doing everything right in a controlled environment, like a gym, like YMT, it's a safe way to train and a very good for your cardio. Whereas judo, it's also safe. There are safe ways to do it, but those like compound fractures and those the sprains and the you do from
They
like
change you, yeah.
yeah, they truly fuck you up. That's where you get bad knees when you're 30, as opposed to you can break a bone, you can get a bruise, and it's not that bad.
Yeah, I had a recent episode of lock knee that randomly surprised me. It was really painful,
Yeah.
and one of the doctors I deal with is a student here, and we did X-rays and stuff like that. He's like, for someone who's done Muay Thai since they were 17, your
Yeah.
knees look great on the X-rays.
Yeah.
You have great knees.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what's going on with your meniscus, but you have great knees.
And see, the thing is that injury, I don't know the extent of it, but just from my experience, I can probably guess that it's not from one fight where you got whacked in the knee. It's from years of hitting the bag and compounding.
Yeah, we don't even know. We're just going to wait for the
pressure.
MRI to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like he was like, one of my friends was like, what was the actual injury?
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Exactly,
He's like, what's
right?
the acute injury you had? And I was like, none.
Yeah.
My knee? None.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and then that's why I'm saying that's like Muay Thai is compared to, again, judo and jiu-jitsu, where you're constantly, like in judo, all the sacrifice throws, right, where you're falling on your knees or on something, and like that the repeated impact is what gets you. And anyways, so I was 2013 when I came
So,
here.
but how, as a 13-year-old coming into like that whole phase for a boy, how did you not, because you did privates and you trained, you did classes in the beginning, you did privates, you were competitive. How did you not use like violence to solve every problem at school? Because I have a 9-year-old who uses some violence. We're working on it.
Oh, I definitely used some violence. I definitely used some violence back in my day. I remember, and that was more not when I came here. I had one fight in my whole life, really, when I was in school, about probably Riley's age, about 9, 10, where I had like there was a bully who was like a big bully that was getting everybody, and he was picking on me because
getting everyone, collecting
and
kids.
I don't know if you definitely remember me when I came here and I was 13. I was pretty late bloomer. I looked like I was 13 until the age of 20.
That's why I said 10.
Yeah,
I was like, you started when you were 10. You're like, no.
I was small. And when I was younger, I was skinny, and then I went through a chubby phase, and then I got skinny again. But I was I looked like a thumb. I had like a buzz cut, and I looked like a little lesbian thumb.
That.
And so naturally this kid picked on me in school, and at that time I only did judo, but I've been doing it since I was 3. So I even being a 10-year-old, I had restraint. I was like, listen, please stop. And multiple times I told him to stop, and he would continue. So one day, just in the schoolyard, I threw him on the ground and kicked him. And he had a bloody nose. He ran to the principal right away, and he tattletaled on me. And I told my dad the whole situation, and my dad was like you told him multiple times, like, if everything you're telling me is true, you did the right thing, good job. Yeah. And he went to the principal, and the principal was like, look, we have to do something here. And my dad's like, I support my kid, I stand behind my kid. He told him to stop. He didn't resort to violence right away. This kid is a bully apparently to multiple children, which they did a little investigation, and it was the truth. So the kid had to switch schools. He was the one and I got off scot-free because I did beat the shit out of him, but like it was appropriately, like I waited long enough. And I think for boys too, like it's, as I've seen your son running around, I've talked to him, he's a good kid. And
he's gonna know your kid.
And like he will get into fights, and that's a normal part of growing up. I think that and it's better now as a kid to get into fights where it's than as an adult, where worse things can happen, right? And learn all those lessons now.
It was because Risley was born he might as well have been born in the gym.
Yeah.
And so,
I remember when he was born, literally
potato.
a toddler, just around here. I was training, and he was.
And so he can count and tie. We've never taught him. He's never taken a class. I do some pad work with him, but he pretty much picked up everything from watching, and it's fantastic. Anyways, so he'll be at school, and I'll get a call, and this is in like grade 1, senior kindergarten, grade 1. And he's like, Risley punched a kid in the eye, and I was like, okay, and he goes, but he's really accurate. And that was where the problem was, because the little kids normally are like, ugh, right?
Yeah,
And Rising was
yeah,
like, Shh.
yeah.
And she's like, I wouldn't have to call anyone, but like the kid's eyes red. And I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
his aim is so good.
Yeah.
Right? So I have this like 5-year-old punching kids in school. Anyways, they were good about it, and he's been good since, because he's still pretty shy inside. He doesn't even really want to use it, but if he gets pushed too far, he will use it. So, but yeah, I have questions about that.
It seems like it's not even because kids fight, right? But the fact that he grew up around, like you said, he was born and raised in the gym, and he knows how to just almost innately use those weapons. That's the problem. It's not like it's just a normal kid who like will get into altercations, but usually, grade 1 altercation looks like meh, where this kid's like, huh.
Yeah, I had to teach him. I'm like, push kicks first. They don't show damage.
Yeah.
Okay, we go to the body first.
Yeah, body first. Yeah.
Okay, there's no evidence there. So yeah.
That's great.
But yeah, as he gets older, I have my own concerns as to how this will progress as he gets more towards teens. But we'll see. Maybe he'll want to train. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be. I'm just imagining that's. Well, I also grew up around martial arts, and like I did judo, and so. How did that change me? I truly feel like it was only positive, because it's not like, it's like we've been saying for this whole conversation, it's not what it looks like. It's not like violent and like gory. It's like any martial art, you go, you learn, and if you're at the right place, you learn respect, you learn control, you learn only good things through this violent pursuit, you can say, right?
Yeah.
So growing up, it truly made it like it. Also, I was also like Riley is hanging around adults and kids that are older than me. So I was always, I think, a little more mature for my age.
Yeah.
And understood the world a little bit more than kids my age, because I was like, there's nothing more real when you're in a ring with someone and you have to, when you're fighting.
Are you an only child?
Yes.
So that's part of it too.
Yeah.
You're around adults more as a kid than you were around other kids, because it would be the 3 of you instead of 2 and 2.
Yeah.
Right? And that's Risley as well, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think, and this is definitely biased, but it only good things. And like that was like the one time I got into a fight my whole life, right? Was when I was a kid. And it's great that it's when I was a kid, because like I said, now, like having trained, you go through university, you go do all that stupid bullshit, and there's so many opportunities where there's like frat guys, like you could get into a fight, but I was always like, I backed away, and I'm like, I don't need that in my life. There's no way. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't I don't even want to say like in most cases I could have probably beat these like people up, like maybe not, I don't fucking know. Like on the street, you can you throw a push kick, you slip, your head hits the concrete, you're done.
Or they just pull out a weapon.
Or exactly, right?
Right.
Like a real, So you don't want that. So
open carry plus martial arts. That's where we're ending off with for Canada, right?
Yeah.
Open carry country, fuck Canada. Open carry Ontario, and everyone does martial arts.
And everyone does martial arts, and we will take over the world. Yeah. No, that is interesting. So is that how old is he now? He's 9,
He's
you
9,
said?
yeah.
And
He's in grade 4.
Grade 4 already.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been years since that happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, he freaks out. When he was little, he used to use a lot of physical. Like, he would freak out, and it would just all be, like, swinging punches here and there. Or if like, he would think someone tripped him. Yeah. And then he would hit them, and they'd be like, dude, it was a rock. It wasn't me. Like, stuff like that. But aside from that, no major fights. He tends to not want to use it. One of our neighbors' kids does karate. One of our neighbors' kids is Simon Marcus and his kids. Right. I was like, don't fuck with those kids right there. Okay, those kids train with their dad every day. Yes. See that one? Do not step to that kid.
Yes. Simon Marcus, by the way, is the one who beat Israel Adesanya. I was messing up my big black guys. Got the wrong one. Sorry. I'm not racist. No, but that is cool. And then I have one more question I wanted to ask you, because we kind of briefly went over when you were talking about your history in Muay Thai and opening the gym. You had a pro career, and I want to ask you about that. Like professional. Yeah, I get that. But just in my mind, because again, like I've been doing sports my whole life, and I had martial arts. I wanted to at one point, play golf professionally, and I understand, which is not in any way comparable to professional Muay Thai, but like I understand just having to do a sport as a living and how tough that is, and I can't imagine you know, with golf, it's pretty tough, but with fucking Muay Thai, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what did you learn about yourself having to fight for a living?
I liked being the hammer, not the nail.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I learned from fighting.
Okay.
I learned a lot about
Explain that for people that don't know what hammer and nail means.
So being bullied, I was never an aggressive kid. And so my parents were like, Muay Thai, why the fuck does she want to do Muay Thai? What?
Yeah.
Well, it was pent up trauma, right? So clearly it came out in rage, and I was in the hip hop, everything was angry in the teen years. So I found Muay Thai and I really, really liked it. But when I got into the ring and I would get hit really hard or being frustrated, that's when I noticed. I was like, oh, when you get frustrated, you lose your mind. Like, you win a fight from blind rage because you got, or whatever, or you would shut down from it, right? And so I noticed there was like polars where I would do really well if I was on an emotional tip one direction, and I would kind of end up falling apart if it went the other direction. And the whole journey was, you know, they say that, you know, you can fix it in martial arts, and you absolutely can, depending on how long you're in it and depending on who you are. But I think it's the exposure that's the power. Right? Like, it's the exposing who you are that is the first and most important step. After that, you do what you want with it. Do I have to fight 20 more fights and feel that way every time? No. And that's where my career, like, I had a bunch of pro fights, and I stopped after that. But the era that I fought in wasn't this era. It was like, I went pro because as Muay Thai in the States, there was like 5 girls at 120.
Right.
Like, there was nobody. And so you'd get like 8 amateur fights or something, and they'd be like, oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
She's going pro. So literally under 10 fights, I'm being set up with a girl who has 25, 30 kickboxing fights, and it's pro. Is it pro because I'm ready to be pro? It's pro because the industry needed more people. And so that's how it started. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the travel. I enjoyed, like, I got to travel a lot with Ajahn Suchart, so I learned a lot that way.
Yeah.
He fought on some cards. I cornered him. He took his teeth out, gave them to me. It was
nice,
interesting.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot. It was an awesome experience. And I found out what I needed to find out. And then it got to a point where my mental game was my struggle.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And most of my fights, I didn't have Kru Clifton or Ajahn Suchart with me. Like, in Thailand, it wasn't them, it was other people. When I went to my IFMA trials, they weren't there. So I think my career did what it was supposed to do. And then I went into coaching after that.
Yeah.
And then the gym opened, and so on and so forth.
Well, what was it about your mental game? How do you feel that you what was it about your mental game?
So I tried really hard. There's a lot of like, I would have nightmares for days before my pro fights that I was losing. And they're like, I would just be dreaming, and it would be like, ding, touch, and I'd be getting beat up, and I'm like, what's going on with the self-confidence? Like, what is going on with this?
Right.
Which is common for a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Somebody that's one of my idols, the reason I got into martial arts, George St. Pierre talks about that a lot.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely. He's really transparent about it. And, you know, and my trainer was Thai.
Yeah.
So my trainer is like, fuck your mental. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
We fight to live. What do you mean?
Yeah, my parents are Russian, so I get that.
What do you mean you're this? Yeah, exactly, right? So, like, Suchart was like, if you train good, you do well. If not, you shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it was. It was you're good or you're shit. But I did cross train with Kru Joey from Combat Arts during that whole time, because the North American aspect, I needed that.
Yeah.
Boxers are taken care of, and Muay Thai fighters are told to climb up the mountain naked with a Siberian tiger chasing them.
Yeah.
In the snow with no coaches. Like, you build a boxer to a big fight, you tear down a Muay Thai fighter to a big fight. Like, they're totally different in how you set your fighters up. So having Ajahn Suchart as my coach, he was like, fuck your mental game. Kru Joey was the one that would be like, how are you eating? How are you sleeping? What's your weight like? Like, how's your mental game? And so I combined the two of them to help me through that part of my career.
Yeah.
Would I say I got through it all the way? No, there was never a fight. Like, I got more calm. I was able to see more, but it wasn't going to be something I was going to do forever.
Yeah, I think with sports in general, especially fighting, people want to channel that, like, rage, that aggression. Like, you know, like you think of the best, like Mike Tyson, right? Just pure rage channeled, right? But realistically, and even for Mike Tyson, he was a great boxer, but, you know, that fucked up his life for a long time, that kind of mentality.
Yep.
And, like, is that a worthy price to pay? Probably not, whatever. There's that argument. But the mental aspect, and this is something I learned as well doing, not only, again, like, it's funny how polar my experience in sports is. Like, martial arts versus golf, right? Like you can't, and in both the mental game is huge. And like literally in this ring, there's no other place probably on earth where I learned more about myself than in this ring. I had one demo in this ring. I still remember it was, I think it was like a Thai kid or something, or
I forget. I know you were wearing the gray shirt.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you were wearing.
Yeah.
I don't remember who you fought though. I know it was a hard fight though.
It was a hard fight.
That.
It was a hard fight. And there was, I remember I was like head kicked literally right there. I remember I landed, so like I remember all of that, and it's seared into my memory because again, you like don't learn, there's no situation in life where that level of, you're feeling that level of emotion truly, when it's just, and you have a corner, right? And they're helping you. And you know, you more than anybody understands this, when it's just you and that person. Yeah. And yeah, you can physically, you can prepare, you can have the best technique, you can be conditioned, you can check all the boxes. But if mentally you're not there and you just see red, or if you're too relaxed, there's so many things that can go wrong that, that is the hardest part. That is the mentality.
Kru Cam will talk about it forever, but as coaching, we get athletes that are amazing but have crippling anxiety, and we have to really prep them. We have to really be, and their wins look different than other people's wins, right? Like we had their wins look like completing a fight or outlast, like someone's coming at them really hard and they manage to like weather the storm and maybe they land something great. They don't win the fight, but there was a win in that transitional period. Right. Or we get the guys, like you said, that are like, we have to, Kru Clifton said it once where he's like, you'll get guys that you have to like widen the flame for, right? Like you need to motivate them a bit more. Yeah. And then you get the guys where you have to take the flame and make it a blowtorch. Right. Right. Where there's just so much. And this was you were kind of on the cusp of Rafa joining us, and because Rafa, Kru Cam trained Rafa.
I still remember, he joined.
And he was like that. He was like a wild flame that we needed to blowtorch him out, and he would be like cutting steel. Yeah. So you kind of get those two personalities.
I don't remember what I was, because, well, actually, I think that I didn't have that. I had a couple of demos, so there wasn't that much of a, like, what do you call it, set to choose from. But I don't know. Do you remember what I was?
I do remember you going forward a lot, but I do think that Kru Cam worked on a bit of, I think you were like a bit anxious in moments in the ring.
Yeah, well,
like,
I can tell you,
what I mean?
Yes, I can tell you exactly where that comes from, because I had a longer experience competing in judo, and my routine before my matches, because I was like, as young as I was at an elite level in judo. I was winning all the provincial championships. I won the U.S. Open once, and then came second, and then I was on like Team Canada and all that stuff. So like very high level, and as a kid, and a lot of practice. And but when I would compete, my routine would be I would yak before every fight. I would literally throw up because I was so nervous. Yeah. And I remember there was a fight towards the end of my, because I that was just what it was as a kid, and it was normal. But as I was getting older and, maturing mentally as well, there was one time before a fight where I didn't throw up, and that made me nervous, because I'm like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was anxious, and that was literally my way of that. I think that's the biggest power. And actually only now talking about it and actually kind of mentally going through what I was feeling, through fighting, through judo and Muay Thai, I think that's the biggest thing that it taught me, is that I was so fucking scared. I was, because as a kid, it was not even the fight that I was scared of. It was my trainer. I had this like Russian Soviet trainer that would be really tough on us. And if we'd lose, we'd get it, So I was scared of, not even my parents, because my parents wouldn't, but the trainer, I was like, fuck, I better win or else I'm going to get it. Yeah. And then, so having that crippling anxiety before the fight. And as a kid, you don't know, like, that's your world, right? So like that was my biggest fear, is losing, and hearing it from that trainer. And just getting out there and getting over that fear was the thing that I learned from it. It was the biggest thing, like saying, fuck it, just do it, Yeah.
I want my son to compete, but his dad said no. His dad was like, you're never fighting. And I was like, whoa, slow down. What? Yeah. I want him to fight. Yeah. I want him to just have to go over that deal with that level of adversity at some point. Yeah. At that age, like at a young age.
Because that truly, and at a young age, it's safer because just, it's not as
Yeah.
impactful physically.
Yeah.
You can't get as heavily injured because the punches aren't as hard, and kids, they're rubber, right? You hurt them, they'll come right back. So, but yeah, I think that was what I got from training and from competing. That was the biggest thing, is learning how to, because that brings everything else into perspective. Like that that type of conflict truly does lower everything. And when somebody messes up your double, you're not pulling out your, right? So, and it's different for everybody. So like your mental struggle was also anxiety from what I can hear, right?
Yeah.
But in the ring, were you scared, or did you try to overpower that anxiety by being super aggressive?
No, I think I always, because again, we're being raised by a Ajahn Suchart. We didn't learn Muay Thai like that. Like we learned it as a game of chess. We learned it as, Len Chun, we play. But because we were fighting kickboxers, most of the time, they would just run at us and go really crazy. And so a lot of the times that was the frustration. So as you get more experience, you start to weather the storm, stay calm. There's a lot of power in that. I would definitely say that. But I just think I don't think I ever really got over the anxiety. I think that I taught myself resilience of just being able to go in a ring and face that part of myself and come out with the knowledge and say, okay, what am I going to keep fighting with this knowledge, or how am I going to fix this?
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe and so when I had students, when I moved on from competing and opened here, the first generation being Kru Cam and Kru David and those guys, I tried to give them a little bit of the Kru Joey that I got and less the Suchart. Like I wasn't trying to just tell them run 15 kilometers, fuck your life. I don't care what you ate today and how you feel. You're going to train. Yeah. I tried to kind of fill in the gaps a little bit. Yeah. And that's where I felt I was trying to make the change. It's generational changes, right? Like you try to fill the gaps from one, and Kru Cam has filled the gap from me. And now you're seeing the athletes today look the way they do.
He did it for me as well, because I had the exact same, again, like my Soviet trainer, that guy who was super, exactly what you're saying, but just Russian accent. Yeah. And then I came here, and Kru Cam was super, kind and helpful, and he actually took care of the mental aspect too. And that was it was almost weird for me to be like, I'm like, we're doing pads, and I'm like, I remember when we were training at some points, you train, you try to get your cardio there, and there was times where you're almost gonna yak, and I was trained to just push through that. And we're doing that, and he's like, you good? You need a break? And I was like, what? Like, this is weird. Like, what? You're asking me? Really? I'm like, I'm a person? Like, that's...
Yeah.
And actually, again, sitting here talking to you about it and thinking about it, probably that experience was one of the reasons that it was pretty easier for me to get into stand-up, because I also loved it my whole life, and I always wanted to get past that. Like, for a lot of people, it's, public speaking is a big common fear, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, from the get-go, that wasn't the reason I pushed getting into stand-up, is just because I had no time. But then that thing of going up on stage when you're super nervous that first time, I wasn't as I almost I was shitting my pants when I was up there, and I ate shit. But I was like, I'm fine, bro. I've been in fist fights with people. What is this? I'm telling silly jokes to 10 people in a basement, whatever, right?
It's the vulnerability aspect, right? So I've always been a singer, but I've never sang, because I was always way too scared. So from a really young age, I was home alone, and I would mimic artists in my house, because I had cathedral ceilings, and I was always alone. My parents worked 2 jobs, and I would always sing when I was scared, sad, angry, happy, and that was an outlet for me. Mm-hmm. So I developed a voice, but I would never sing for someone else. Not my parent. No one ever caught me. Okay. And so here I am, fighting, right? Go pro, go live in Thailand, right? Yeah. And I get back, and we're doing the championships for Muay Thai Canada.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going to make myself sing the anthem. And it was the very first time I've ever done that.
That's awesome. That's great.
And it's the same thing. It's you're naked.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you're telling jokes or you're singing or you're fighting, you're naked. And if you have the moment where you're like, I've already been naked and embarrassed.
Yeah.
Right? And not necessarily, even if you won.
Yeah.
You still missed one shot or looked silly doing something.
Yeah.
So now everything else is a little bit easier to swallow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it just trains your brain to to put it in a different perspective. And because at the end of the day, we're all doing, like, whether you're fighting or like singing or doing stand-up, you're doing a thing, and it's not different for you. If you're singing or if I'm singing, we're still two people singing in front of a crowd, but there is that, our brain just tells us like that's where the difference comes in. That's why you might be nervous and I might not be, or somebody else might be. It's because the way that you go through that, your own inner monologue is what changes it, right?
Yeah.
And so fucking, if you get out there, if you get in a ring and like you've probably like, what's the biggest crowd you've fought in front
of? Probably the ones in the States. Probably the title fight. In California was probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
I mean, again, big being like between 400 to 500 because it was Muay Thai in 2005.
True. Yeah.
In Thailand, my fights were in like big C parking lots and in a field with 6 light bulbs and a bunch of Thai kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
But still, that whether it's a big C parking lot with a couple of people or a title fight with hundreds of people, right? I can tell you the same thing. Like, you know, I fought in this ring, again, a demo with, you know, I don't know, like 20 people in the crowd, or I've done stand up in a basement with 2 people in the crowd, and I've done theaters with thousands of people. The feeling is the same, right?
Yeah.
That hurdle you have to get over is the same. It's not the external. It's like the thing that you battle inside yourself. That's what makes you feel different. So yeah, that's cool. And that's awesome because like, think about, like, you open this gym and you let people come here like myself and learn about themselves, right? Your struggle led to you opening this gym and me coming here, learning that about myself and getting into stand-up. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. We try to follow our students even after they leave. Like, we had a girl that trained with us for 4 or 5 years, and she moved downtown with her boyfriend and continued training at a gym downtown and is like fighting for Team Canada now, and it, like, just continued going all the way up. And whether she goes up with Muay Thai or we watch our students do other things, like having a little part in that story is what we really thrive on. And it's pretty cool seeing them when they're young enough, like between the, I'd say, 12 to 20. Because if they stick, like, usually we keep in contact with people, and now with Facebook and social media and stuff like that, it's a lot easier. And then to see just where they become and how successful or where their life takes them, and just, we like that. We like knowing that, like, when you were 13, we didn't know where's this gonna go? You know? I mean, me not being here as much anymore, but for the boys that are teaching at night, Kru Cam, Kru David, PC Lear, they love that. Like, PC Lear will always be like, raise your hand if you did your trials with me. So like, some of our top fighters started, and he's like, you did your trial with me, I taught you the fundamentals.
There is a huge, that's big. That's pretty cool to see. Teaching and in general, that's
to our points, as long as you're being taught properly, like, we've had people come from other gyms where they're grading, like their first day they were chucked in a ring and they were sparring. Their grading was them getting beat up by a coach. Like, you have to be at a place where they understand the art properly, they understand how to teach, and they like, you know what I mean? And they understand how to reach people, right? Yeah. There's a lot of monkey see, monkey do in Muay Thai. I mean, as there is in every industry, but there's a lot of like, I saw this on Instagram, I'm going to teach it. I saw this on the One. I saw this guy do this, I'm going to practice it. And there's more of that than there is of curriculum, planning, like process, patience, right? And I always say this to people. I'm like, there's a billion moves in the book, but Muay Thai's skills are in like their timing. It's in all the small stuff you can learn. Yeah. So I think that if you're at a gym, like, because if you're not at a good gym that knows that stuff, they're gonna beat the crap out of you in the drain. That trauma is just gonna go off and be worse than what you came with, right? You're gonna be like, now I'm traumatized from Muay Thai.
That's the thing. That's why it's like it's a big ball of energy, or like you know, it's kind of like the analogy with fighting or with stand-up is that I use, why is it so interesting? Why are people drawn to it, right? With fighting, there's the risk of all that stuff happening. And unless you wield it properly, that's going to happen. There's so many things that can go wrong. With stand-up, the reason people like the edgy stuff is because I can go up there and do poetry or give a speech or joke about the weather, but it's the stuff that it's like juggling with tennis balls. Not a big deal. Many people can do it. But when you have flaming knives and you add that right?
You just jump to flaming
Well,
knives.
yes, right? And you start juggling flaming knives. That's the thing that can go wrong, and that's the thing that attracts people to it. With fighting, it's the flaming knives, and it's
Yeah.
not just tech sparring or shadow boxing. With
Yeah.
stand-up, if I'm talking about, race or religion, but you have to wield it the right way. I have to
course.
juggle, and before I learned to juggle those flaming knives, I have to learn to juggle with tennis balls.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times before I say that joke about whatever race that actually gets a good response that I've bombed in a basement, and
Yeah.
people have walked away going like, what the fuck is this white boy talking about? You know what I mean? Like,
Where did
so
he
that's-
park?
Yeah,
Let's go
so
find him.
that's an interesting comparison. But yeah, this is awesome. Thanks for
Yeah, no
talking to
problem.
me. This has been really cool, and sitting here in the ring, it's a pretty cool backdrop.
It is. It'll never change.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
This is us.
Yeah, if you want to, plug anything, York Muay Thai, Toronto, Ontario, come here. It's awesome.
Yeah, we do three free trials. That's what I got.
Yeah,
for
3
people
free
who wanna try
trials.
it out. At least
And,
if you do trials here, you'll be able to make a decision on what a good Muay Thai gym is after, because we are teaching you all the stuff,
Yeah.
the culture, the language, so you'll know what's bullshit.
Yeah.
Even if you just do one trial, you'll know if you go to another gym and you'll be like,
York Muay Thai, Toronto, Ontario.
Awesome.
Kru Jen, Kru Cam, Kru Ilir, and or PC Ilir. All right, that's the perfect way to end the podcast.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this, or having me, I should say.
Go. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go, little one?
Peace.